Joining us now on the line is Will Sommer with the Washington City paper, a man who covers district politics, knows quite a bit about how these things. We've been waiting for something to happen here. Were you surprised at what finally unveiled itself yesterday?
I was. I would have to say I was surprised by the extent of it. I mean, Jeff Thompson basically unveiled 5 years worth of just really extensive corruption in the district politics, and that his plea put the mayor in it as much as it did. It has the mayor, delivering basically an illicit budget for nearly half a million dollars. If it's accurate, it's hard to see the mayor really getting out of this.
Well, I mean, what is the next shoe to drop here now? I mean, will there be an indictment of Mayor Gray?
That's an open question. People are wondering about that. There's certainly references in Jeff Thompson's plea to specific documents that it sounds like they have. The U.S. attorney wouldn't say whether or not they do, but they've certainly lined up enough people, and it's hard to see them letting Jeff Thompson, who really was the ringleader of this. I mean, he's getting off pretty easy. He'll get 6 months if he cooperates. So it's hard to see them letting him go like that if they didn't think they could get someone else.
Will Sommer's our guest, loose lips columnist of the Washington City paper, and he has the great honor of covering all of this corruption in the district government. And you just made
job. Somebody's got to.
You made a great point. The fact that they let him go on a 6-month plea deal suggests that there are some huge fish to fry. And I was struck, and so were you in one of your columns yesterday, by this ominous statement from the U.S. attorney. He said, "What you learned about today is only the tip of the iceberg." My goodness, it's a hell of a tip of an iceberg, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean it's just astonishing. I mean the amount of D.C. council campaigns. We currently have two people who are still in office involved in this: Vince Gray and Vincent Orange, who I believe you've had on the show.
Yes.
And it's not clear if Vincent Orange knew about this shadow campaign that was nearly $150,000 to get him onto the council. It's just huge.
We'd of course love to have Mayor Gray and Councilman Orange on to talk about this. We didn't get any answers from them yesterday when we requested some time on. But let's talk about the other council members. I thought it was kind of interesting that Tommy Wells came out with his statement. Of course, he's been running on a anti-corruption campaign since day one, and he made a point in saying that unlike any of the other candidates for mayor, he didn't take one thin dime from Mr. Thompson. Is that going to leave an impression? Can he actually separate himself here?
Yes, that's one of the interesting things about Tommy Wells, right, is that he's the only member of the council or person running who has been elected and didn't take any Jeffrey Thompson money, because part of Jeffrey Thompson's scheme was these huge hundreds of thousands of dollars of straw donations that were basically used to conceal his contributions to get around spending limits. But it's hard to see. I don't know. I mean, in a way, it's sort of like you've had this guy who's saying, look, it's so corrupt, and now, I mean, he's been proven right. But I don't know if that translates demographically for Tommy Wells. Jack Evans certainly stands, I think, to inherit, if the mayor drops out of the race, I think Jack Evans stands to inherit most of his votes.
That's interesting. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about this Uncle Earl stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently the mayor says the only thing that's true about this is that I did call Jeffrey Thompson Uncle Earl. Why do you think the prosecutors have made such an interesting point of making this part of a major part of their public documents that they released yesterday?
I think what we've seen in the past couple scandals we've had in the district, we've had Michael Brown, council member, plead guilty to bribery, is that the prosecutors kind of have a flair for these details. Like, they talk about him getting money stuffed in a Redskins mug. And frankly, I mean, I think the Uncle Earl thing's embarrassing. During Jeff Thompson's plea hearing yesterday, he was talking about how, after he agreed to allegedly pay Vince Gray this $425,000, Gray stops at the door and he says, thank you, Uncle. I mean, it's kind of weird.
Well, I mean, is it possibly that they have a tape recording of some conversation in which Gray uses this phrase? Is that why they've made such a big effort to get that out there early on?
That's a very good point. I mean, they certainly like to set these things up. we had a couple weeks before this, we had Michael Brown describe how he got a shadow campaign, and then sort of to lay the groundwork for, okay, this is how you get a shadow campaign.
Will Sommer, we're 3 weeks away from the April Fool's primary here, and is it possible, listen, the D.C. voters, they do some pretty crazy things now and again. Is it possible that Vince Gray is now a martyr, and in some way he might get some sort of, like, a populist boost here?
Oh, I think it's very possible. I mean, I wouldn't count the mayor out. And in fact, right now, I'd say he's probably still a front runner.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because he's got all these scandals, but he's still at it. So it's not clear how much support he'll lose.
Let's flip to the other big story yesterday, where about an hour and a half, 2 hours after this broke, David Catania, who's always been flirting with the idea of running as an independent, he formerly was a Republican, now an independent, first openly gay council member. He basically made it known that by the end of the week he would announce his candidacy. Is that a game changer?
I don't know if it's necessarily a game changer, but it certainly is a very big deal. David Catania does not demographically come from a very strong position. Like you said, ex-Republican, that's not very popular in the district. But things are kind of, the stars are aligning because, he has Vince Gray getting knocked around before the primary. If Vince Gray wins the primary, Catania could kind of swoop in here.
Interesting. Will Sommer, great having you.
Yeah.
Loose Lips columnist for the Washington City paper.
Well, we may call on you again. I think it may not be very long the way things are feeling right now. Do you think this will happen before now in the election?
That Machen certainly has a lot on Vince Gray. So, I would say never say never.
All right. Thanks a lot, Will. Appreciate it.